Hooks. Deep shot. Hold in, Devontae.
Sure.
Before the press conferences even start. I mean, we could talk for 45 minutes just about how atrocious the defense is.
Doing? He's just picking the big guys. Jordan Mailata, he's huge. He'll be good later on. Josh Sweat, he's tall as hell and strong. Let's get him. We'll figure him out. It's working.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Trending in the AM. This is the end of week one of the newest morning show taking over the podcast in Philadelphia area. I am Phil Stiefel, joined by Jeremy Horwath, as always. And our guest today, we got Jason Voorhees from the Sports and Metal podcast and also the Drunk on Ice Flyers podcast, the newest Flyers podcast, doing a great job over there. We are brought to you by Manscaped, as we always are. Use promo code TRENDING, TRENDING, TRENDING at checkout to get you 20% off and free shipping. Holidays are coming. Don't miss out. Make sure you check it out. We'd greatly appreciate the support. And whoever you're buying the stuff from Manscaped from will so appreciate it as well. Jeremy, good morning. And Jason, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on, Phil. As always a pleasure. I've been on quite a few of your shows, and it never gets old, man. It's always fun. Always a good time hanging out, bro.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jeremy, after your day off yesterday, you look wide awake and fresh and bushy-tailed, as always.
Definitely more awake. Hey, I think you are a little bit too, because you actually started the show saying good morning.
Did I?
First time you've done that.
First time you didn't say good evening? Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
I'm going to make a mental note. I didn't mess that up.
You didn't mess it up today. That's fantastic.
Progress.
Progress. Hey, we're all new to this morning show. It's a great concept and a great idea, but it's going to take a little getting used to. So I'm super excited that we're wrapping up the first week.
Yeah, me too.
That we really had minimal glitches and minimal issues for the first week doing a morning show. This has been great.
Yeah, it has been.
All right, so we got lots to talk about. We brought Jason on because he's a Flyers expert. He does his Drunk on Ice podcast. He works with Flyers nitty gritty. He's really tapped into Flyers. So we're going to get into the Flyers shortly. We're going to talk about the Sixers first. Then we're going to wrap the show up talking about recapping last night's Thursday night football game. Obviously, the Thursday night football game means something in Philly because of the Carson Wentz watch and the snap percentage and the draft pick and all.
Yep.
So we're going to get into all that today. But we want to start with the Sixers game. Second half of a back-to-back against a bad Detroit Pistons team. Super shorthanded, even more shorthanded than the night before. No Tobias Harris still, no Danny Green still. Furkan Korkmaz was a late scratch with wrist soreness. No Isaiah Joe because he's also in COVID protocols. So we went with an 8-man team last night. And, it was a little sketchy. We were losing at halftime, but we did what we were supposed to do, and we separated and won that game against the Detroit Pistons 109-98. Jeremy, thoughts on last night's game?
I know we were shorthanded, but this Detroit Pistons team is really, really, really bad. And I would have liked to see a little bit more starting off at least. Mm-hmm. The game was very close the whole time until we got into like the middle of the fourth quarter. But the first three quarters, it was just so close. And I feel like we should have had a pretty handy lead. Yesterday, we were talking about how we would have liked to see a huge lead in the first three quarters. And then after that, just put in all the backups for the rest of the time. Yeah. But we couldn't have even done that. I mean, Embiid was in.
There were no backups to put in last night.
Yeah, that's true too. But I don't know. I just would have liked to see a lot more of a handed win. In the end, we did get a double-digit win. But still, I would have liked to see more than first three quarters.
Yeah. Jason, I'm not sure. I know you had multiple podcasts last night recording. I don't know if you caught any of it or caught any of the highlights. Thoughts on a great Sixers team being pushed by – and real quick, Jeremy, you say they're not a good team, Detroit. They're not a good team, but they do have a lot of good young talent that is hungry.
Yes.
Grant, former process Sixer, Cade Cunningham, the first draft pick,
he
from Villanova. A lot of young talent that eventually will be really good potentially.
Exactly, they will be.
Yeah. Jason, thoughts on being pushed by the Detroit Pistons last night?
Well, I mean, I think Jeremy kind of hit on it already. I mean, when you're that shorthanded, you're kind of going to expect to have a little bit of I don't want to say a lull, but your team's not going to be where it needs to be. And the bottom line is, to me, I mean, and that's not just in basketball, it's any sport. To me, I'm worried about the W. At the end of the day, I really think that's what's most important. And, yes, where they pushed, most definitely. But I think the thing with the Sixers that I'm looking at right now is the fact that they're actually playing as a team through all this, craziness with the Ben Simmons, drama and all of the, distractions. Embiid, is he injured? Like all these distractions, and the team is still playing as a team. And that to me shows a lot about their character. I mean, I've come on, I'm not a Sixers expert. You know that. Obviously, basketball is probably, to me, as far as my knowledge spectrum, my fourth sport that I really don't know much about basketball.
Right.
But I do know enough to know that, I've kind of been very critical of Doc Rivers as a coach. But I think, you got to give credit where it's credit's due. And I think this team is definitely, obviously, pushed by a bad team last night. But, and I obviously didn't get to see the game.
Right.
But, I've caught glimpses of, quite a few of the games, earlier. And they're definitely playing good, solid basketball. If I had to give you my, my pick right now for, the MVP of the team, I would say Seth Curry. I mean,
absolutely. And Seth Curry, that's a great segue. Seth Curry had another great game. Led the team in scoring, 23 points last night, 4-8 from deep. He just continues to develop into more than just a sniper, more than just that JJ. We talked about it yesterday morning, recapping yesterday's game. He's more than just that JJ Redick sniper. He's a really, really good, scorer, offensive player. He's not a liability on defense. So I like that. The other names that we talked about a lot yesterday, Jeremy, Tyrese Maxey yesterday, 37 minutes, or 2 games ago, 37 minutes, no turnovers. Last night, he played 45 of the 48 minutes, only 1 turnover. The birthday boy, finally hit 21 years old. I mean, he is older than you, Jeremy, but he's like half the age of Jason and I. The fact that a kid that's 21-year-old is starting point guard for a championship caliber team and is, I did the math, 82 minutes in his last 2 games, 1 turnover. That is a huge, huge upside. You can work on the shooting. You can work on, certain playmaking abilities. But the ability to not turn the ball over, I mean, already at that young age, I think that's huge and clutch.
It's huge. It just shows how mature of a player he is and how much of an asset that now he can be. It's really hard to work on not turning the ball over when, you're kind of known, if you're kind of known like in college, like, hey, this guy turns the ball over a lot. That is one of the things that's harder to fix because if they're trying to fix it, they go the total opposite way, and now they're scared to make any plays. Tyrese Maxey was 20 years old, and he was getting no turnovers in 40-minute games.
So as he got older from one game to the next, he went from 20 with no turnovers to 21 with 1 turnover. So he's regressing, right? Poll on the channel, on the radio channel today probably is Tyrese Maxey regressing? That's probably what that one radio station's poll of the day is.
It probably is.
No, but shaking his head down.
Well, no, I mean, you guys are talking about Maxey. I was, big on him coming out of college, and a guy that I really
22nd pick. He should have been a top 10 pick.
A guy I truly respect. That's very plugged in with the Sixers, and he's totally underrated. Sorry to give a shout out, but
that's okay. Shout them all out.
Big T Will. He's a big, he's big on Twitter. And he runs a podcast called Full Court Press, Full Court, and he's been huge on Maxey since day one. And I'm telling you, like, I think the Sixers kind of got a steal with him, and he's the type of player that obviously was going to take a little bit of time to develop. He's kind of a little bit raw, but at the same time, I think the Sixers made the right decision to draft him. I know there was a lot of, people saying, well, why would they draft another point guard? But the bottom line is, like I said, until the whole Ben Simmons thing gets, what's the word I'm looking for?
Resolved.
There's going to be a lot of questions, surrounding the team. But I like to try to look at bright spots. And if there is one huge bright spot, we already hit on Seth Curry, but Maxey to me is a guy that is definitely And I know a lot of people are still complaining and saying, oh, why didn't we trade Maxey, Simmons, with that deal for the Harden deal? I remember it was like Maxey.
I'm over
Bible.
talking about that at this point, basically.
Yeah, I mean, it's like talking about the what ifs. I mean, we could do a whole list of shows and a whole, we could start a whole new podcast on the what ifs in Philly.
Yeah. Good idea.
I
mean, I already got 10 shows going a week right now. I don't need another, but
that's my idea.
In case I get bored and want another show on my agenda, we'll write that down. The what ifs. All right, so Jeremy, I got couple more points on this game, but one that you guys talk about Maxey and Curry, and we talked about Matisse, after the last game. But man, I told everybody before the season, and I'm going to pump my chest here to not sleep on Shake Milton. Yeah. Obviously, Shake Milton he lost his confidence, basically, we'll say, towards the end of last year and in the playoffs last year. Actually, he got benched for most of the playoffs. Yep. And I said, look, he's a young kid, 24 last year, 25 this year. Let's not lose focus on what Shake Milton is capable of. Forced to start yesterday, 34 minutes, 16 points. The guy's confidence is completely back. Yep. And I love to see it, not just because I called it. I want to pump my chest that I called it, but, But on the flip side of the equation, Shake Milton, I mean, when this team is healthy and fully stocked, is a huge asset to our bench, in my opinion. And if he can keep this confidence going, when you go to that second unit when we're healthy, that's a huge thing to have on your bench as a Shake Milton with confidence.
Oh, it was huge. And ever since we first saw him start to play well, it kind of came out of nowhere. I remember when I was watching the game, I didn't even know him. I don't even know how we acquired Shake Milton, if I'm going to be honest.
He was a second-round draft pick.
Second-round draft pick?
Yeah, he was like a 56th round pick or something.
Yeah.
Or 56th pick of the draft.
I remember just seeing him a few years ago watching the game, and I'm like, this guy's name is awesome. This guy's name is Shake. Like, this is
actually
awesome.
Not his real name.
I know that, but
I forget what it is, but I did Google search once to find out what his real name was.
Right, but I was like, this is awesome. So I started paying attention to him. I'm like, this guy's going off. Like, what is going on? And so I've liked him ever since then. But yeah, last year he did lose confidence a little bit, but I always knew he was going to come back stronger. He's just that kind of player, and we see it now. He played for 30 plus minutes, scoring 16, 8 rebounds, 5 assists. I know I don't know why I remember his stat line last night, but I remember seeing that stat line last night, and he just had a really good day. Hopefully he can continue to do that. Huge to have someone off the bench play that well.
He's got that nickname Shake, and it's a fun nickname and all. But really, honestly, his first step when he's at the top of the 3-point line and he makes a move to go to the to drive the basket. I mean, he's really quick. He's got a really quick first step. There were a couple of plays last night because I was watching that instead of the Flyers game before my show, and you see him make a move and go to the rim. He's got no fear of getting hit by anybody down low, and he's just really good with the layups and the finger rolls and the reverses. Yeah. I mean, and he's confident in his shot, just like Matisse. He had a bad day last night. He's still confident in taking the shot. There's no hesitation. And that's what we started to see with Shake Milton at the end of last year. Why he ended up getting benched was because whenever he would get the ball, he almost had the Ben Simmons shakes where he wouldn't shoot the ball. Yeah. And he would hesitate. And when you hesitate shooting, your percentage, your chance of making that shot goes way down. So it's great to see.
100%.
One final thing I just want to touch on. It's a joke, and I know Scotty pointed out, like, dude, it's because of the situation and the shorthandedness and all. I know, but it was so hilarious that we were so shorthanded last night that you saw 2 different lineups on the court. You saw Andre Drummond and B-ball Paul Reed on the court at the same time, and then later in the second half, Joel Embiid and B-ball Paul Reed were on the court at the same half, and then Scotty's like, well, are we going to see Andre Drummond and Joel Embiid on the court at the same time? Yes, I know that all happened, and Paul Reed had to play the power forward position because we were so shorthanded. But I hope we get some people back so we never have to see that again because you need 2 centers on the – that's like going back to Joel Embiid and Al Horford all over again.
No, having all them big guys on the court at the same time is I mean, hey, we got the wins, and it was definitely –
That's all that matters is we got the win.
I'm with you. I really hope I never have to see that again.
All right, guys. So Saturday night, we'll wrap up the Sixers with this. The Bulls again. We just played them the other night. Yep. Had a big statement win. This time we're going on the road to Chicago to play them. I know there's a lot of question marks. Tobias will still be out. Danny Green possibly still out. Furkan, I'm not sure. He was a game-time decision, so I think he may be back for the next game. Isaiah Joe, he's in the protocols. They haven't said whether he's actually got it or was just a close contact.
Yeah.
So I don't know there. Do we stand if we have the same lineup as we had last night against Detroit? Do we stand a chance against the Bulls on Saturday night in Chicago?
No.
No,
I think we have a chance, but I would favor the Bulls. I think in any game there's a chance to win. You know what I mean? But who I would favor? I would favor the Bulls in that situation. I mean, it was a close game when we played them. And DeMar DeRozan went off last time, dropping 37. He's not gonna be afraid to do that again, and especially with all these guys out. I'd be insanely worried. The only teams I think we can really beat with this lineup, that with all these guys out, are these bad teams like the Pistons. I know that the Pistons will be better in the future with these young guys, but right now they're just not it, and they're gonna have to gel more. And so them bad teams, only teams I can see us beating with this lineup. I don't see us beating the Bulls if it's the same way. But if we just get a couple of other guys back, even guys like Danny Green and Isaiah Joe, just so we can have more of a bench, not just 8 people. I think that's always
we ran 8 people. It was not a pleasant sight. No. Jason, I know you're not a huge basketball expert, but do you agree with Jeremy that beating a really good team is going to be really tough if they're that shorthanded?
I mean, I think Jeremy said it perfectly. I mean, and let's not forget, they're the home team this time. And the home team, to me, in basketball, a lot of times has the advantage already. I'll tell you what, that DeRozan guy, I would have loved to see him in the Sixers uniform. I know it's not happening, but he's got a lot of talent.
I would say DeMar DeRozan. So everybody always says this player is a poor man's that player. DeMar DeRozan is not a poor man's. He's a rich man's Rip Hamilton. Jeremy, you might be too young to remember Rip Hamilton, Philly product. That played for the Detroit Pistons during the Ben Wallace days and stuff like that, the Larry Brown championship era. He was the exact same player as DeMar DeRozan, just a 15-foot jump shot guy. He actually made wearing the mask famous. He had a broken nose, wore the mask, never took it off for the rest of his career, left it on there. And that guy could put up, he could go 15 for 20 from 15 feet. Couldn't shoot the three. Couldn't do much of anything else. Yeah. That dude was lights out. But DeMar DeRozan is basically better. He's not a poor man's Rip. He's a better Rip Hamilton. So you babies don't remember Rip Hamilton. You were in diapers when he was tearing up the NBA. All right, let's transition. The Philadelphia Flyers, unfortunately, lost an overtime game last night to the rival Pittsburgh Penguins, which I hate. My franchise, Fox's Pizza, is based out in Pittsburgh. Our pizza is sold inside the arena at Pittsburgh there, the Igloo or whatever it's called these days. So I always root against the Penguins 110%. That's just a Philadelphia Flyers fan thing to do. So it's heartbreaking when they lose. Jason, we're going to get first into the Flyers as a whole, and then we can get into last night's game. The Flyers are now 5-2-2, 2 overtime losses, 12 points so far on the early season. Where is this Flyers team at the moment?
If I had to give you my thought in a short 2-word sentence, it would be cautiously optimistic.
Okay.
So, we talked about this team when we had our Drunk on Ice debut, which was a few weeks back, and we kind of gave our predictions. So where I'm at with this team is that, they're in one of the toughest divisions in the NHL. The Metropolitan is loaded with talent, and it's going to be tough, even with the Flyers' huge offseason moves and improvements. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking at this team as being a team that's not technically ready to contend as of yet.
Contend as in a title contender or making the playoffs contending?
Well, I'm saying definitely not ready to contend title for the title. Okay. And it's going to be tough to make the playoffs. I said that, and I'm still sticking with that. Doesn't mean that I'm not obviously excited, but I'm one of these guys. I'm a realist. I love the team, but we do these podcasts, like we have to speak the truth. And
absolutely.
If you look at the Flyers roster, you look at other teams, quite a few of the other teams have guys that are like elite status.
Right.
The Flyers realistically don't have an elite status player. Okay. And that doesn't mean they're not a good team. Like I said, I'm very hopeful, but I'm not ready to say that they're there yet.
Okay. Jeremy, I know you said last night it was like the first full Flyers game you've watched in a couple of years, in a while, because you were preparing for this show. Knowing we were going to talk some hockey today.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you're never allowed to watch the Flyers again since your first game. They lost. So what did you see while watching the game last night?
So when I was really paying attention was more in like that third period. I remember seeing the goal when we tied it up, and I got really hype. I don't know, something about hockey. It's like so exciting. Like, and I never realized it. Like, whenever I would have talked about all different sports, I would have been like, hey, hockey was lower for me, but I was into it the whole time. It was huge. And when we scored that goal to tie it up, I was so into it. I couldn't get off the couch, off the end of my seat the entire time, and it was close the entire time. And then there was a couple really nice saves out of Carter Hart towards the end of the game, keeping that game tied until overtime. And then once we got into overtime, I was just hoping that we could at least get to, the end of overtime and just not let the loss happen. But that goal that the Penguins scored, it was just barely in. I don't know if you saw it at all, but
I haven't watched a single highlight from last night's game, so I'm flying blind here.
It actually came down to a review. The guy, I forget, I don't know names that well in hockey, but he came around the net and he just slapped it into the side, and it looked like Carter Hart saved it. Yeah, and it came down to a review, and you can see on the review it just barely crossed the line, and that's how it ended. But it was definitely a sad loss, especially going up against our rivals, but it was a fun one to watch at least.
So Jason, 3-2 loss to the Penguins. Now, again, I haven't watched too much hockey yet this year. I've actually watched more this year than I have in previous years because I'm trying to, be able to cover the team for the morning show here. Mm-hmm. But I haven't watched any Pittsburgh games really yet this year. Technically, Pittsburgh's lower in the standings than the Flyers. Is just Pittsburgh a better team still, even though their record at this point early in the season? Did we lose to a better team, or did an equal team on the same playing field just beat us last night?
I think if you look at the Flyers in Pittsburgh, their rosters, at this point in time today, they're very similar. Like, as far as, the pecking order, because like I said, I have the Islanders, up there winning, towards the division. The Rangers are a team that's going to, definitely, ready to go to the next level. Pittsburgh, to me, the X factor is obviously Malkin. Malkin is on IR long term, so he's going to be out like 2 or 3 months. So it's hard for me to get a full read on Pittsburgh because they're not fully healthy. And also, don't forget, Sidney Crosby was out the first 6 games.
Okay.
So
I wasn't even aware of that. So
yeah. So you got to look at it that way too. So obviously Pittsburgh to me is just like Washington. When you have a guy like Sidney Crosby or an Alex Ovechkin, you're always going to be in a hockey game. It's just these are guys that can win a game all by themselves. Right. And when you have that type of player, I look at that roster as being, a team that's going to be tough to beat. So in that aspect, am I disappointed? Obviously. I mean, I mean, who doesn't want to beat the Penguins? I mean, we're as Philly fans. I mean, that's like, it's like
are the Penguins one of the most hateable teams in all? They're right up there with the Cowboys. Where if you're not a Penguins or a Cowboys fan, literally everybody hates you, across the board.
Well, I mean, you just nailed it. For me, it's Eagles, Cowboys, Flyers, Penguins, Phillies, Mets, or you could say Braves. And, Sixers, I would say, I don't know who their rival is right now. I mean, I guess it would be Boston. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, those are teams that you just can't stand. And you just, obviously, all the passion in the world, you want to kick their ass. But the bottom line is, like I said earlier, I'm cautiously optimistic. But I got to say, this team does have a lot of, good things going right now. I mean, to me, I said it beginning of the season. To me, the X factor and the all-important thing for the Flyers is always going to be Carter Hart.
Yep. That was going to be my next question is, where are we with Carter Hart as the goalie? Because, again, just like Shake Milton and just some other people, last year, second half of the year, you start to see some shaking in his confidence there.
Well, yeah. So last year, I mean, it was definitely regression. Mm-hmm. But I think if you look at players like, Carter Hart that have the talent, someone that's that has talent doesn't just lose talent.
Absolutely.
The problem with Carter Hart last year, he was playing behind an inept defense.
Absolutely.
Okay. Let's face it. The Flyers defense last year was probably one of the worst ever in the history of the NHL. The way they played.
Yep.
They were soft. They didn't protect the goalie, and they're playing the defensive zone. So I mean, talk about sloppiness, turnovers, you name it. That Flyers defense, had it. The other big thing with Carter Hart, though, that you had to look at is him being so young. His confidence was definitely the main issue. It was a mental thing, but he also was kind of like his mechanics were lost. He wasn't playing good positional hockey. So, for a goaltender, the most important thing is to be able to make sure that your mechanics are right and that you're playing the angles correctly. And last year, Carter Hart was just he was a mess.
I mean, Carter Hart, he's now only just 23 years old. I mean, he started playing, he got his call up at 20 years old to the Flyers. So there's a lot of pressure put on a young kid there. So, a little regression is not unexpected at an early part of his career.
No, and it's happened. I mean, there's quite a few goalies you can go back in time and look at where, they came out firing and had good seasons and then kind of had a regression. I mean,
wasn't there a Flyers goalie a few years ago that went on? Didn't he win a Stanley Cup or at least played for a Stanley Cup? What's his name? Was it Bobrovsky or?
Oh yeah, Bobrovsky.
Yeah,
well, Here's the thing, Bobrovsky. Talk about the what if.
It was about 2021 when he got his call up. Was the hot goalie, and then he definitely regressed. We got rid of him, and then he went on to win a Stanley Cup.
Yeah, that's another what if of hockey. I mean, in Philly.
Again, I got the what if written down here.
You got the list.
1,400 for me to do a week.
Bobrovsky's definitely on that list. No, but the thing that I look at with Carter Hart is like I said, his confidence is back. The way he's playing right now, I mean, so he's 3-2-2. He has 2 overtime losses. 2-4-1 goals against, which is very respectable. 926 save percentage, and he's only allowed 17 goals. So if you looked at Carter Hart last year, a lot of his games where he kind of, the reason his goals against and all his numbers got blown up is he had a couple games where they put like 9 goals on him.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So he's playing more consistent this year. He's definitely got an edge to him. And early on, you could tell that he's playing like he was in his 2019, 2020 year where he did very well and took him to the second round of the playoffs. And, mind you, in that playoffs, he played out of his mind. So he's a goalie. Like I said, to me in hockey, the most important position is your goalie. And when your goalie's struggling, your team's going to struggle. But let's not forget, with the Flyers, Chuck Fletcher did a tremendous job this offseason fixing the main problem. So, you can look at any sport. So in baseball, say you had a good pitching staff, but your hitting was terrible. Right. So what do? You go out and you acquire a couple good hitters. Well, that's basically what Chuck Fletcher did. And another thing that I think gets lost a lot of times with the Flyers, with their defensive core, is the fact that a lot of their defensemen were young. The Flyers are one of the youngest teams in the NHL. So you're going to have growing pains. But the problem with the Flyers was they were expecting all of these guys who are, extremely young to carry their defense. So what did they do? They added 3 veteran defensemen this year to pair with the young studs. So now you got, instead of Provorov, now obviously right now this isn't happening because Ellis is hurt. I'm a little upset with that. We can get into that a little later if you want. But the fact that
at least Irish Drew is saying, at least Hextall's not the GM anymore.
No, well, that's perfect. But I mean, Hextall was just waiting too long to kind of, but you can't really diss Hextall because Hextall got a lot of the guys that the Flyers have now and also that are in their system. Right. They still have a lot of good young talent down in the minors. So, sky's the limit moving forward. But like I said, you added Ryan Ellis, a guy that really a lot of people aren't talking about, Keith Yandel. He's a leader. They added leadership. That's really, to me, what this is all about. You got guys that lead by example. And then not only that, you have Cam Atkinson, who you added. who you went from Jake Voracek, who sometimes was one of the most frustrating, most boring players as far as no energy on the ice, to Cam Atkinson, who's all over the ice.
Right.
So there's just so many things that are going well for the Flyers. Like I said, they do have holes, but I'm very, hopeful that obviously these changes, they're definitely improved.
Right.
So,
okay. Well, so their next game Saturday, they go down to D.C. to play Washington. Will they win in Washington on Saturday night?
I mean, it's going to be tough. I'm not sure. I haven't saw if they announced the goalie yet. I mean, I'd like to see them go back to Carter Hart, but the way that I know AV's been playing it, that they're probably going to go to, the backup. I think anytime you play Washington, it's always we talked about it, Alex Ovechkin. I mean, that's the guy that's scary and he's dangerous.
Irish
If
Drew
the
said
Flyers
they're gonna beat Washington.
I think they win. I'll give you my prediction. I think the Flyers come back and they win. It's going to be, I think I'm calling like a 5-4 either regulation or 5-4 overtime.
Okay.
But I look at it as the Flyers need to stay out of the penalty box.
Okay.
No matter what you do, please don't go and make stupid penalties, because that's where Washington kills you on the power play.
Absolutely. All right. So we got 1 minute left of hockey talk here before we get into football. Obviously, there was a really big hockey trade yesterday morning. We didn't really cover it. It was breaking right while we were doing the show. Jack Eichel was traded from Buffalo to Las Vegas. Buffalo got back 2 players, a first-round pick, a second-round pick. And again, I don't follow hockey super closely, so I know, but I do know that Eichel is a really talented hockey player. What I didn't know, as I was reading up before the morning to find out, all the details of the trade this morning, is that he's undergoing back fusion surgery. So they're taking a really big chance trading multiple draft picks and players for a guy that might not play. And I read in the bottom of the article that no hockey player has ever had a fusion surgery before. So was it a good trade, or fair trade, or too many question marks at this point to know?
So Jack Eichel,
former first-round pick, first overall pick, right?
No, Connor McDavid was the first overall.
Okay.
Jack Eichel was number 2. So it's kind of like the Carson Wentz, Jared Goff thing, where they were always going to be compared. But
it's a great segue into the next conversation.
But neither of those guys are on the level of Connor McDavid. Connor McDavid is generational. Okay. Jack Eichel is when he's healthy, he's elite. So he's one of those elite star players. I believe in this case, Vegas, they're already good. So Vegas has the ability to get a Jack Eichel and not have him play, even if he doesn't play this year. Let him get back healthy, and then he comes back, and they don't really lose anything, because the guys they gave up are somewhat, still raw, like their prospects. Like Krebs, Peyton Krebs is really good. He should have been a top 10 pick. He had a lot of injuries himself. Buffalo, it was in a different situation. Buffalo it was kind of like the Ben Simmons thing. It's a lot of drama, and it was actually surrounding the injury where the drama was.
Yeah, from what I was reading, he wants one type of surgery. The team wants him to get different surgery.
Done. Correct. That was what the whole tipping point was on this. Buffalo's definitely improving because they're a team that's in full-on rebuild. So they're looking to get as much assets and capital that they can get.
Right.
So I think it's a win-win for both, because Eichel wasn't going to play for Buffalo. And he was putting off the surgery because they wouldn't let him get the surgery. So realistically, it was one of those trades where it's kind of good for both teams.
Okay.
I think at the end of the day, Vegas.
We'll get you in next time, Frankie, for sure. Absolutely. No problem. We've already spent like 25 minutes talking hockey. That's 25 minutes of the entire week. We haven't talked hockey all week yet on this show. So we're definitely going to make sure we talk Flyers hockey at least once or twice every single week. Frankie, you're next on the agenda to bring on for our next hockey segment. And Jason's going to be here at least once a week talking hockey as well. We got to move on to football. We got to recap last night's Thursday night football game. Jeremy, obviously, we talked about it yesterday morning. Before the show, I said it was going to be a blowout. I didn't think that many points were going to be scored. But the Jets lost 45-30 to the Colts. Carson Wentz did not play 100% of the snaps. Sam Ellerling, or whatever his name is, did take a kneel down late in the game.
Yeah,
so it's
Sam
like 99%
Ellinger.
of the snaps.
Yeah.
So we will.
It was fine.
We will continue to progress getting that first round pick for Carson Wentz. And before we get into the game, I want to just talk about the people that are constantly talking about, the Colts benching Carson Wentz because of the draft pick compensation at the end of the year. At one point yesterday, the Colts were up 41 or 44 to like 14 late in the third quarter, and they did not bench Carson Wentz. That was the opportunity. That was the moment where we learned what the Colts thought process is with Carson Wentz. They are going to play Carson Wentz the entire season, no matter what. I think we learned that last night. And again, outside of the one game last week where he had a few interceptions, he played really well again last night. 22 of 30, 272 yards, 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
No interceptions. I'm pretty sure he didn't have any fumbles either. No, I'm double checking. No fumbles last night. So another turnover-free game.
No fumbles.
Jeremy, thoughts on last night's game?
Kind of what we expected. Mike White did go out early in the second quarter. Not that I think
I'm not happy that he got hurt.
I don't think Mike White was going to come out.
Save my same game parlay. I hit my same.
No,
game
never.
parlay. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. But yeah, never happy to see someone do anything like that. But I don't think it would have been much of a difference. I think his name's Josh Johnson that came in. He came in, had an amazing day. He had over 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, only 1 interception. I don't think Mike White would have done, even if he did that wouldn't have made any difference. It just shows the Colts are a better team, and I think everyone would have expected that. Carson Wentz had a good day. The Colts had the most rushing yards out of any NFL team so far this season. In the third quarter, they already broke the season record. For the most yards this season in the third quarter. On 27 rushes, they had 260 yards, averaging almost 10 yards a rush. It was insane. That Jets defense is terrible. You could run all over them. Gaps are being created by the pretty good offensive line of the Colts. Carson Wentz was able, whenever he had so much time in the pocket, had a good run game. It was kind of just unstoppable. There's just nothing. That Jets team is just terrible. Even Marcus May, their elite safety, got taken out a couple times due to injury. I don't know how he is now, but yeah, just shows the Colts are a better team. And now Carson Wentz gets to play some more snaps for us and hopefully get us a decent first round pick.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, the Jets are a bad team, but Josh Johnson, you bring up, he has literally now played. He's been in the NFL since 2011. He has played on 12 different teams.
He's catching up to McCown.
Jeremy won't get this reference. Jason, you'll get this reference. He's the Randy Reddy of the NFL.
Oh, dude. Randy Reddy, man. Phillies.
Yeah, as Anthony checking in on YouTube, how did the Jets beat Cincinnati after what we just watched? I didn't get to watch the Jets-Cincy game, but that was the surprise of the weekend last week. And then they just get blown out by the Colts. A huge surprise there. But yeah, I mean, I just love to see the progression. I know Carson's a sensitive subject in Philadelphia. He obviously is. You got people on both sides of the equation. But I do want to see Carson do well, just for the person standpoint. Carson's a really good person. Yeah, he had some issues here in Philly. Yeah, he didn't handle necessarily the situation. He didn't handle it as bad as Ben Simmons. But, he still did. The situation was a little sketchy. But you know what? I still want to see good things for the man. I still want to see, him, rehab his career and stuff like that. As long as he's not playing us in the Super Bowl, I just want to see him do well. And last night was another game in his progression. But yeah, I mean, a lot of those points that the Jets scored were in mop-up time, in my opinion. So
it was, yeah.
Even seeing that they threw for 398 yards passing, Larry, they scored 2 touchdowns and almost scored a few more. All those yards were in the fourth quarter. So
exactly, and it was just the Colts taking the foot of the gas pedal. And no matter what you want to see about Carson Wentz, he is a good football player. He is a good quarterback in the NFL. Before that Titans game where he threw 2 interceptions, he had almost 200 snaps or 200 straight passes
without a pick. Yeah.
Without a pick. Like that, and again, that is extremely impressive. Like, come on.
Honestly, before 2020, I guess we could go back into the middle of 2019. From his start in 2016 when he first started through 2018, he wasn't a turnover-prone quarterback. It was 2019 when he was playing with all practice squad guys. Hero ball. When you don't force Carson Wentz to play hero ball, Carson Wentz is a really strong, decent. He's not top 4 like I thought he was last year, but he's still a really strong quarterback in the NFL.
He is.
Jason, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of said it perfectly with I call him the player that I won't name, but
Yeah.
just that.
I did make it a rule for about 3 months we weren't allowed to say his name on any of my shows.
Well,
but I've kind of pushed that off to the side now.
Well, I think it kind of gets old, like, because like you said, there's like two drastic sides of the fence on Carson Wentz. There's the total haters that are like that like will bash anybody that even mentions his name.
Right.
And then you have the guys that are like the blind loyalists, like that are like still fanboys to this day and buy his his Colts jersey and want him. Listen, at the end of the day, I don't look at any player and say I want them to not succeed. Listen, right. Carson Wentz, I wish him all the best. I think what Carson Wentz is showing you right now is that when you have a playmaker at wide receiver, because let's face it, Michael Pittman,
we talked about it yesterday morning for the show.
Stud.
Michael Pittman,
he might already be a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL.
He is. And I got to be honest with you. Like, Carson Wentz never had that with the Eagles.
No.
And let's get into what Jeremy said. I mean, this team runs the ball, smash mouth football. They have Jonathan Taylor, who right now, I mean,
he's leading the league.
We're not talking fantasy, but he's fantasy running back number 1.
Yeah.
Jonathan Taylor in his second year. So he got him as a stud. You have a good offensive line, solid. And then you add guy like Nyheim Hines, who I know he's been struggling as of up until this last night, but he had a great game last night.
Right.
As a pass catcher. You have multiple weapons on that offense. I think it's showing you what Carson Wentz can do when he's allowed to actually run the ball and have guys that are making plays around him. Because let's face it, the year that he won and he had 4,000 yards with practice squad. I mean, that shows something about the guy. I mean, and you could say all you want about Carson Wentz and bash the guy, but at the end of the day, he might not be a top 5 quarterback, but he's definitely capable of being a top 10.
Yeah,
and
he probably falls. If we have to wait and see how the whole season plays out for him. But going into next year, you could conceivably say he's anywhere in that 10 to 15 range for sure.
Yeah.
You're not going to get him in the top 5 or top 8 ever again in my mind, just because people will always think back to 2020. But yeah, I mean, again, as people are saying in the comments section, he's got the skills. How he never put the right things around him. Again, you said it. Michael Pittman, Jonathan Taylor, right there. That is more than he ever had in Philly. You can make excuses, but they're not necessarily excuses if they're true. I mean, you look at the fact that we had 14 different starting offensive line configurations last year. You know what I mean? So that plays into a factor as well. So yeah, I mean, I'm personally looking forward to Carson Wentz's progression and the fact that Frank Reich's actually calling really strong game plans that puts him in a better position to win.
He's incredible. Frank Reich's incredible. Yeah. He's incredible.
I mean, he's just incredible based off of what we're used to seeing. Okay. Yeah. I don't know if Frank Reich's really incredible. He's not doing anything that's,
I know it's just
revolutionary.
Right.
He's doing what a traditional coach should do.
Exactly.
Play to the strengths of your quarterback and your team. And that's what he's doing. And when you have a Jonathan Taylor, it's pretty damn easy to play to your strengths when you have him to hand that ball off to 15, 20, 25 times a game.
Yeah.
Well, you kind of just touched on it real quick and you kind of quickly glanced over it. But, you could say that, injuries aren't an excuse, but I call them the truth. I mean, when you had the offensive line that he had last year and even this year, you look at Jalen Hurts, like, our offensive line still hasn't been consistent because it's been injured and, multiple guys. Once again, we came into this year saying with the Eagles that the biggest, important thing was going to be a healthy offensive line. And once again, it's every year. And to me, you could say what you want about Carson Wentz, but we all know, I mean, my opinion. To me, the problem with the Eagles is Howie Roseman and Jeff Lurie. And that's because the players consistently.
That's another show right there. We could just have a weekly show just talking about Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie and all their mistakes. But anyway, we got to wrap this show up. I got to get to work. Jeremy probably has to go back to bed. Jason, I don't know what time you work today, but you probably want to nap before work as well.
Yep.
Real quick. So we've got Flyers. We all agree it's going to be a close, maybe a win, maybe a loss. We all agree Sixers if they're not healthy, if they don't get some of their players back, it's probably a loss. I already gave my prediction this week on the Eagles. Jason and Jeremy, do you want to give any? Jeremy, you might want to save it for your Saturday show, What the Football. But thoughts on the Eagles Chargers and predictions?
I actually on another show gave my prediction. I believe that the Eagles are going to win. I know that's a little bit of a surprise, but I think this is the kind of games to me that the Eagles always seem to win. The games where they're like, oh my God, they're facing the hot quarterback in Justin Herbert. They have, a great offense. But if you look at the Chargers defense, it's pretty bad. Yeah. And I'm going to go with a close game. I'm saying Eagles 27, Chargers 24.
Yeah, that's what I said on Wednesday. Jeremy, I don't know if you get your prediction or figured it out or you're saving it.
No.
Because we can tease it. We can make people want to tune into What the Football on Saturday morning. If you want Jeremy's prediction, you got to watch Saturday morning.
It sucks because tomorrow actually is the one time that I cannot have What the Football out. This is the one time.
What the hell?
Yeah, what the hell? I know. So we will not have What the Football tomorrow. It sucks. But if the Eagles run the football like they did last week, I'm not saying 40 times like we did last week, but if we run the ball, the Chargers have the worst run defense in the league. They are 32nd in rush defense. Yep. Run the ball. I don't give a damn if it's with Boston Scott, if it's with I don't even care.
Anywhere. Yeah, exactly.
Anyone can.
So it's going to be Kenneth Gainwell this week because last week I had Gainwell in my fantasy lineups on DraftKings. And Scott got it all. This week I'm putting Scott in all my lineups. So
and now it's going to be Gainwell.
All the rushes.
100%.
Guarantee. No doubt about it. All right.
Well, then I'm changing mine. I'm putting Gainwell in then because you just said that.
Well, now that means Jordan Howard's going to be the guy that's going to get 47 rushes.
Yeah.
So if we all play one person, Anthony checking in on YouTube saying, Gainwell crushed me. I had I doubled my money last week in DraftKings, but I would have quadrupled my money because I had Gainwell in so many lineups. And he had like 2 points. It freaking stunk. I'm right there with you, Anthony. Hey, this is the wrap of the first week of Trending in the AM. We've completed 5 shows, Jeremy. We haven't killed each other. We haven't overslept. This is great. I can't wait to do it again next week. Yep. Jason, thank you so much for coming on. Everybody, make sure you're following Jason on Twitter at Mustaine3651. The Sports and Metal podcast. Great episode. They cover the topics no one else is willing to talk about. A great passion to talk about Henry Ruggs and that whole situation last night on your show. So make sure you guys go check out his podcast. They do a great job over there. And also the Flyers, the Drunk on Ice Flyers podcast, you and Mr. Don Conway, who is another one of my favorites out there. I love him. I'm going to try to get him on a show. Well, maybe come summertime when he's not teaching or over a holiday break, I'll get him to come on a morning show here to talk Flyers with us. And obviously, Jeremy, know What the Football this week. That's unfortunate. Yes. But we'll be back Monday morning to talk anyway, so that's good. And I'll be here Sunday for Halftime Live, the fastest 10 minutes in football, and post-game live Eagles Aftermath on DSM Media. Just 2 more of my 14,000 shows a week I do. And everybody have a great Friday. Everybody have a great weekend. And we'll end it with a Go Birds as we always do because it's time to get ready for Eagles game on Sunday.
There you go. Go Birds.
Go Birds.
Go Birds.